everybody, welcome back to a CineFix Now Roundtable. We are again in our scenic green screen studio. The green screen on which nothing will appear.
Not even a round table.
Not even a round table. I'm not gonna even do that. But we are on the uncomfortable chairs once again here to talk about stuff. So diving right in. Of course, Sin City: A Dame to Kill For came out this week. We were at the red carpet.
Of course.
Of course.
9 years later, of course.
9 years later, the sequel comes out. So we've had all kinds of fun Sin City stuff. One of the interesting things that we want to talk about this movie is the VFX company that handled all of the effects. It's a company called Prime Focus. They're based out of Mumbai. And instead of a fee, a traditional fee for their services, they were just working for points. They took a stake in the movie.
Like the cast of Pulp Fiction all got points instead of a decent paycheck,
Yeah.
but they're all individuals. You know, they don't. Yeah, they have an agent and probably an assistant each, but like they don't
have
employing
buildings full of
hundreds of people just rotoscoping all day.
So
But it's kind of an interesting thing because something has to happen in the VFX industry. It has to get changed somehow because you got these companies that are doing the biggest budget movies and they're going out of business because...
Well, like Rhythm and Hughes went bankrupt 2 weeks before Life of Pi won.
Right.
2 weeks
And
before they won an Academy Award.
It's because it's such a new industry and like hasn't really been... It's only been like 20 years of actual like established pipeline. How many people actually know how to actually do it, and then to do the business side of it and get everybody paid what they're worth and make money off that? That's tough. And so I
you're
think
saying that we're just seeing some of the forerunners sort of fall as everything kind of shakes out.
Well, it's
People
like
figure out their business
in the
model
early
still?
days of film, you would have these big budget movies getting made, and then it would do well. But then immediately the production company would fold, right? Like Cleopatra, right? That just completely killed that production company. And we've seen that happen in this fledgling industry where they're breaking new grounds, but they're not reaping the benefits.
Well, and it became as technology progressed and as it became the barrier to entry to start a VFX company became lower, like, you know, competition sprung up, and so everybody was racing to outbid each other, and so before you know it, nobody's making any money ever, no matter what. Meanwhile, studios making more and more movies, release dates becoming more and more of an issue, you know, and so the VFX industry more or less broke. There for a little bit. I mean, and you know,
they couldn't handle the
So
and then all these like Rhythm and Hughes, they had way high overhead. You know, that they had to meet, and then
literally doing Academy Award-winning work, and they can't keep the doors open, which is odd. So this is interesting. What Prime Focus is doing in terms of shifting the business model of the VFX industry. The other thing to know about Prime Focus is that they do a shitload of business. Like they're a huge company. They have offices in Mumbai, in Vancouver, in London, all over the world. So they literally have the infrastructure to work on these movies 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, so they can handle this type of thing.
they have the capital
They
to
have
pay
the
a bunch
capital.
of guys to
Ultimately-
do the rotoscoping
Right.
up front and then hope for recoup.
And
later.
ultimately, it was something like $12 or $13 million worth of work is what it would have cost Weinstein to just buy the work, was $12 million. So, so for a company that does hundreds of millions of dollars in business, it's not much of a gamble. The trick, the danger that I see happening, though, is this is a precedent to set for studios to expect this type of thing. For smaller VFX companies, like they're not going to be able to
which
handle
have a hard time staying in business as it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of one or two in LA right now that have lasted longer than a year. You know,
Right.
So is that a dangerous precedent that that smaller VFX companies might be looked to provide hundreds of millions of dollars worth of work?
I think there's a bigger issue just with the way Hollywood does accounting.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's really
at the end of the day, they can show that a movie has made no money just consistently. They can show that they've made $0. And that's obviously not the case because some of these
write it
studios
off
have stayed.
as a loss on
Yeah.
their taxes.
If I remember
$50
right,
million on that movie.
What's his name? Peter Jackson had to sue because they were saying that the Hobbit movies hadn't made any money. And that's
Categorically.
absolutely ridiculous. Or not the Hobbit movies, the Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's even more.
Yeah,
This was like 3 or 4 years ago, and I was
it
like,
was a while ago.
"What? That's stupid. Just
I
pay
have
the man."
I have
pay the
4
man his
copies
money.
of that DVD.
Yeah.
Like,
I
paid for
have
that
the
movie,
regular
like,
editions and the extended editions.
And I
And
saw
we
it in
all watched
theaters
it again on
twice each.
TBS.
I bought it again when I got my Apple TV.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And then also to just sort of like artificially inflate the budgets of these movies by just assigning a value to the VFX work, because they're for them to say Sin City was a $60 million movie. $12.5 million of that was the VFX budget. That wasn't actual cash. That was just services. I'm sure there was some other inflation in territory pre-sales and there's all kinds of ways actual liquid cash spent on the movie. There's no telling. It might have been $10 or $12 million. So yeah, the accounting practices are really suspect. So again, looking at anybody trying to run a VFX company, if they then have to wait on the studio to decide how much money they made on a movie and then get a percentage of whatever that number is.
Yeah,
and then they're going to have to wait for an independent person to come in and redo all the books.
And then they're going to have to sue.
But at the same time, is profit sharing the thing that might actually keep VFX studios afloat? Putting aside the fact that studio accounting is total shenanigans and has been for decades.
Shenanigans is the best word to describe that. You're absolutely right.
No matter how you slice it, you're going to have to plan to bring in 100 people to come do all the work and then actually bring in 130 people because you're up
but Sin City is literally a movie that cannot exist without an FX company attached to it.
Yeah.
Just like they released all the footage from behind the scenes, and it's literally, regardless of your feeling about
it looks a little bit
how
like
boring
us right
Sin
now.
City is,
it's literally
it's literally just like a person standing in front of green screen. That's all it is.
And especially because it's all voiceover too.
Yeah.
It's Josh Brolin looking angry in front of a green screen, and that's it.
So in a very real sense, Prime Focus was as important to Sin City as John Travolta was to Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
They are a star of the movie.
And looking ahead to the next 5 or 6 years with all the superhero movies coming out, you can make the same argument for all of those movies too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not exclusively in front of a green screen, but they don't exist without
Rocket
VFX
Raccoon
companies.
won't exist without an effects company.
But I mean,
He's a
what's
tennis
interesting
ball.
is like
Where's Groot without an effects
the way
company?
our storytelling is going, and with all of these sort of comic book movies coming up, there should be more work than ever for these studios, and especially the ones that are good and well known and have decent reputations. So there's something in their business practices if they're not able to make this work, and it probably takes 1 or 2 of them to be like, you know what, we just can't do it for that.
And maybe if this taking a stake in the movie becomes more of a common practice, maybe it sort of has a reverse effect and does open the door for some of the independent, some of the smaller companies to do it. Because if larger companies are like, look, I'm not going to put up $50 million worth of effects work, the producers say, okay, fine. They go and find
some
a
smaller company that
do it.
has to do free work anyway. Just get known.
Yeah, it's just how do you
But the
How
That
do you-
is
it's
the
hard to
traditional
say.
Hollywood
Yeah.
system.
It's hard to say.
It's like
because-
work for free until you prove yourself, and then we'll overpay you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
well,
there's no
that's-
effects union. You know,
Yeah.
There's
No,
that's-
Which
that's
is
the
the
other
big
issue.
problem.
That's
That's
the
the other
big
issue.
problem. There's no effects union. There's no sort of established business practices at all. It's so experimental, even at the most basic level.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I would like to think that Robert Rodriguez is the type, and who knows how much authority he has in this in this process. I would like to think that he's got an indie enough mentality that he's not going to screw this company over. I'd like to think that's but Prime Focus is a infinitely larger company than Troublemaker will ever think about being.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting situation. Like who's getting the good end of this deal?
Well, and Sin City, as we looked up on the interwebs today, may not make that
Exactly.
much money.
Hey, if it makes over 50 mil, then they've made their
That's
money
true.
back, right?
I mean, they've
Right, and it depends on the deal that they have. If
I
Prime
think the
Focus
fan base is
getting,
there enough that it'll make at least 75.
it'll do well enough in theaters. It's not going to break
It
any
will make
records
a
here. It'll do
profit.
fine overseas. It'll do fine in home video. I'm sure. But again, that's a process for all that money to come in. That's a process. So how extended of a schedule does a VFX company then have to float this $13 million worth of effects on their books until they get paid back. You know, so it's
who's got $13 million worth of capital to pay salaries and buy office snacks for 2 years. That's a really important part of VFX studios.
There's at least $1 million of Red Bull on that budget.
I mean, you gotta have.
And he's not kidding.
Right.
I have worked in video game companies and things like that. It's if you're gonna keep guys there until
Bull,
10 at night every night. 2 in the morning
14-hour days of just...
There's going to be free food.
The other thing that this does require is a good banker. I mean, if you are going to do that, you're going to have a pretty robust line of credit. like, hey, by the way, bank guy, we need to float $13 million for the next 18 months.
Yeah. That's fine. As long as you could stop calling me bank guy.
Look, I'm not going to learn your name. I don't have that. I don't have enough respect for your profession.
It's pronounced Guy.
Bank Guy.
And bank is my surname.
It's true. Guy Bank.
Thank you.
So look, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. To circle back to the first point, there's something has to give in the VFX industry. It's too important.
Especially since it's too important. They don't get paid enough.
It's too important. It's too undervalued at the moment. Something's got to give, and maybe this will work out. I have a bad feeling about it. I think it's a dangerous precedent to set ultimately, but we'll see.
It's one of those things that ends up on a behind-the-scenes reel where we talk about all impressed about it. When it's an actor who does it, oh, he waived his fee to be a part of this movie. Yeah. Oh, it's very exciting. Like, can you be equally excited about some corporation? They waived their fee to be part of this movie, and the 400 guys they employ are like, do I get a paycheck?
Yeah, honestly, they're racing each other to cash their paychecks every week. Okay, well, look, to shift gears completely, 100%. Story that happened this week that is, it's funny and sad and disturbing. It's all things at all the time. There's a woman on Naked Dating.
Which is exactly what I think sounds like.
It's a real show. Is it Naked Dating or Dating Naked?
I
think it's Naked
Dating. It doesn't matter.
Look, it doesn't matter. Naked Dating. There's a woman who is suing the show for $10 million because she appeared naked on the show Naked Dating. There is one little bit of clarity there in that her genitals did actually appear because they forgot to blur.
Oh yeah, they did.
They forgot to blur out one little. You actually truly went and found it.
Yeah,
they're real.
It was how much? What percentage of genitals are we looking at?
What are we talking
about? 100%.
All
you can see inside of her.
Oh wow.
It is not a flat. It's not flattering.
So
it looks like a real train wreck down there.
So look, I mean, beyond the conversation about you show up on a show called Naked Dating and you get mad when you appear naked.
Well, it's not
how
necessarily
much
that. It's that in her contract they probably said that it would be censored.
Yeah, well, and that's the crux of the lawsuit is they said that everything would be censored.
It's a law issue.
We have a hard time making sure all our and 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 everything are all bleeped out in the video.
I promise you, I'm going to forget one of those three.
So it's sort of inevitable that something is going to slip through, and I think that's why everyone's watching.
There's an assistant editor right now who's never going to work again.
It's sort of surprising that there isn't some sort of thing in the contract in the nudity rider, because that contract must have been 100% nudity rider, saying in the event that some portion of Section 2Z is violated, we will pay you this much money or something.
Show me on the doll where we're...
They did not censor.
Show me on the doll where Section 2Z is.
Yeah. It says in one of the write-ups that, she, in addition to the, embarrassment and emotional injury, a guy she was seeing at the time has not called her back. And I don't feel like you can pin that entirely on the blur.
No, we can pin that entirely on the fact that you were on a show called Naked Dating.
And she's like,
wait, you're breaking my heart. You're telling me that first date didn't work out for you?
I don't know that it worked out.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I like that, she was dating someone. It's one thing to be non-exclusive with a guy and be like, hey, I'm going out with this other guy next week. It's another thing to be non-exclusive with a guy and be like, I'm going on a date.
Isn't it so much worse to just draw attention to it? It was, when I was looking it up, it was literally referred to as gaping. And you're just setting yourself up for that kind of...
the nature of reality shows and going on to a reality show is one, to get looked at by lots of people, and try to cash in on something. And so if like this,
that's why I think it's a publicity stunt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially from her perspective,
Yeah.
it's like if this is her chance to cash in on. Okay, she didn't find true love on Naked Dating, but maybe she can get $10 million.
I wish she was suing for that.
Yeah.
Like breach of contract.
I
did not find love there.
I mean, truly, you and I have both been on reality shows.
Oh, yeah.
You were on Let's Make a Deal. I was on Wipeout. Had your nuts popped out in the middle of Let's Make a Deal, would you have sued for $10 million?
You bring your own costume to Let's Make a Deal.
No,
I gotta say, at some point, that would have been my own fault.
That's fair.
And then I probably
Let's
would have
make
sued
a
Wayne
deal.
Brady for not being like, hey man, put that away.
Put it up.
Put that away.
Wipeout would have had slightly more opportunity for some bits.
Yeah, they had me pretty strapped in there for Wipeout, but
Well, and
There's
but
gonna be like
their
sports
straps
bras or
had
something
been
that like
faulty.
come up during Wipeout.
there's gotta be. Yeah, I mean, like
you get hit with the big red ball, and it's just like whoop whoop,
booby.
Yeah, well, and then it is
pants
the
falling down 'cause you're-
post-soup's job to be
Yeah.
like, not that clip,
Oh, not-
that one.
Right.
Not necessarily post super.
And they do blur some
But
stuff
look,
out on
whoever
shows like Wipeout,
approved
too.
that final cut and
The
was like,
producer.
good to go, yeah, that's true, yeah.
How many people
I blame
watch
you.
that?
Well, Lord knows, as soon
All
as I'm done
2,000
cutting this,
people
I'm
were
not going to
in
watch
it.
the whole
Yeah.
thing again. So if any of your stuff is out in this show, I probably missed it.
Yeah, because it's the internet, and we're
I don't
really phoning
QC
everything
these.
in down here.
I don't QC these at all. But look, circling back to some kind of point to talking about this reality show, there's another reality show that they've announced called Sex Box. It's a British import, like most of our reality TV shows.
But without the British
Well,
accents
but
this
the
time.
concept is a couple that is a couple. It's not
An
random
actual
people.
couple, yes.
Since we were just talking about Naked Dating, this
At the
is an
moment.
actual couple. They come in and they like introduce themselves, say whether or not they're having problems in their relationship or whatever, and then they go into a box without cameras that's theoretically soundproof.
It's on stage.
It's on stage. It's like right behind your panel of experts, and they have sex.
So presumably they get some advice from the experts. Then
Okay.
they go try out said advice. Then they come out and talk about how the advice worked out, I guess.
So this is
And the
just
show's called
Immediately they're
sex
out.
advice and not relationship advice. It's just purely like,
Well-
it only lasts
No,
2
I think-
seconds.
It's like,
I think
have you
it's-
tried putting it there?
It's relationship advice insofar as like learning to express what you want when you go into the box. Or
When you
whatever.
go, we're stripping people down and putting them on first dates. We're having couples.
And then when that doesn't work, we're
when
throwing
that
them in
doesn't
a
work,
box to
we put
Sex in this box.
We put couples in a box to have sex. How close are we to The Running Man? Are we getting pretty close? Because I feel like we're
Those
crossing
all
a line.
sound pretty sexy, and the Running Man is pretty like
But-
stabby, shooty.
No, I
Yeah.
understand that, but like I feel like we're crossing a line.
Murder, kill stuff.
That's going
Well, there's
straight
already
into, like-
reality shows of, all right, there's the Best Shot or whatever that is, where it's people, snipers. All right.
But
Just
they,
amateur,
Really?
amateur
That's a show?
snipers.
but they shoot inanimate objects.
They're shooting at that.
No, well, yeah. But
Then for a little while there was the reality show where they pitted a bunch of Navy SEALs versus
soccer moms.
no,
Please say soccer moms.
no, that'd
No? Okay.
keep that. for
Seals
later.
versus moms.
Seals versus
We'll
moms.
take that over to the
Navy
other
SEAls
building.
versus independent
Military
Seals.
contract.
military contractors.
Blackwater Seals.
Basically. So I mean, like on those lines,
Yeah,
it's
we're
kind
getting,
of.
I feel like we're getting dangerously close to some Hunger Games Running Man kind of
I don't
stuff.
think
Like
people
then
actually
you've
want to
got the
see
Naked
people
and
really
Alone.
get hurt. Not in a up close and personal way. Like
not yet.
not well.
I'll watch some robots do that. I'll watch some robots do that all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real Steel, underrated movie.
I mean, the thing with sex,
It's just
I think
Box.
it's the real.
it's mostly like, hey, here's a really alluring hook, but the rest is like a bunch of people being like, hey, like you need to do it. It's like reading
Yeah,
the
dude,
Cosmo.
Yeah.
pages,
Wait,
but
wait,
with
wait.
better
On the
pedigree.
panelists, do they get that one guy at the end who's the snarky Brit that like just criticizes the out of him? Like, that was pathetic.
That's gonna be
You
season
call
2.
that
Yeah.
Well, I watched a good about 15 minutes of this Sex Box British
Right.
version, and it mostly seems like it's a very serious show. Like a couple comes in, they talk about themselves. The panelists like,
It's like a
say, "Oh, I can see that this is the problem in the relationship. Here's the problem that we as a society have about our sex hang-ups." Like it's very deep and thought-provoking, and yet it's I don't know if it's deep, but like the concept is a lot.
It gets pretty deep.
It's a lot.
It's a smart idea whoring itself out.
Exactly.
I mean, it's tackling some issues insofar as reality TV can, but it's called Sexbox.
It's a smart idea.
It's like,
slumming.
It's trying to be Dr. Ruth, but it's called Sexbox.
Tackling issues as tackily as possible.
I think the real issue here is that I think people are not watching as much reality TV as they used to.
I hope that's the case.
And they're just like, wait, we have naked people. And then...
I just got this brief from the Something Shiny network. Yeah. They need something loud, aggressive, that has naked people with antiques.
Must appeal to 18 to
naked
54-year-old men with disposable income. Talking about people dealing with their like actual problems in like a national TV setting for a show like Sexbox, obviously inviting the audience into their most private, sort of intimate lives. Then you turn around and the woman that was on Naked Dating is suing for $10 million because of an invasion of privacy. There's a weird.
That's the national debate right now.
There's a weird fuzzy
line there. We all Facebooked all of our personal things, and then we're like, the government can't read this, but everybody else can, right?
Sure. I mean,
that's the sort of the debate going on nationally.
If I'm sharing a butthole picture between like me and somebody else, that doesn't mean the government gets to look at my butthole.
Well, it does because it's out there.
Hey,
your butthole?
Right. I was not friends with the government on Facebook.
Now look, before we really start talking about whether or not the government has a right to see our buttholes, I think we've said buttholes enough where I have no hope of cutting around any of this. So, is there any other final thoughts on anything?
I think Mark's point is totally fair that like reality TV has it's had its heyday in terms of people taking it like seriously. I think WeTV and its press announcement said like this is the kind of breakthrough programming that people have come to expect from our channel, which basically means like we got your attention, didn't we? Because we have a show called Sexbox.
The kind of breakthrough programming that our customers are used to seeing us steal from the industry. All right, well, I feel like that's probably enough.
Probably.
We could go on all day forever. So let us know what you think about all that stuff in the comments down below. Click like and subscribe. Come back next time for more movie news on CineFix Now. We may or may not talk about buttholes again. Hopefully we will. We'll figure something out. If not buttholes, something.
I'll work it in.
Okay. Good work.
Can't wait to see the thumbnail for this.